Hello friend, I hope that you are doing well. Today we are going to be talking about arguably the most popular betta fish tank mate that there is. Can you guess what it is? If you guess snails, then you are right. Snails are in probably almost every fish tank. I have several myself. If you add up how many snails I have between the two tanks, I have 7 snails, and I love them very much. They're fun, they're colorful, I've made videos on them before. In fact, I probably mention them in almost every single video I make. But today we're going to be discussing specific types of snails that you can have in your betta tank, and we're also going to be talking about the pros and the cons of each, because I realized I really have never made a video about this, and I thought that it would be super helpful to you, especially if you're trying to decide which one to have in your tank. So let's go ahead and jump right in. The Narite is honestly one of my favorites. Hopping into the pros, these snails are excellent algae eaters. They're really gonna help you keep the tank clean. They're very active during the day and even during the night. They are just incredible little things, and they will clean your tank up super duper well. They also do not reproduce in fresh water. Now, before I may or may not have said that they don't lay eggs in fresh water, I had someone reach out to me recently and say, hey, I think you said that they don't lay eggs. If I said that before, I do apologize. By they don't reproduce in fresh water, I mean they do not successfully have eggs that hatch. If you get a female Narite snail, they will still lay eggs in freshwater tank. They just won't successfully turn into baby snails. For a while, I really didn't give this much thought because I guess by some odd chance for the several years I've had Narites, I must have gotten males because absolutely none of them had been laying eggs in my tank, so I didn't even think they did that. But recently, I bought some snails for the tank behind me, and I started seeing some little eggs pop up. Then one of my friends reached out to me and told me, hey, I must have gotten one too because she is laying eggs everywhere. Now, as of right now, I don't know how to actually tell by looking which Narite snail is male or female. If you order them online, you're just gonna get what you get. You could potentially, if you're purchasing from a breeder or from someone who knows snails more than you do, maybe you could ask them to make sure they give you males if you don't want eggs. Sometimes eggs don't bother people. But if you don't like little white specks on your driftwood and around your tank, then you might want to check to see if there's some way to tell whether you are getting a male or female Narite snail. Pro number 3 with Narite snails is that they come in many, many different colors. You will never be bored. You can get all kinds of different Narites, and I have said this before, my favorite place to get them is Aquatic Motif. They have a really great website. Every single time I've gotten snails from them, they have arrived on time and alive. Completely healthy, and they have a huge variety. So if you want to check them out, I will leave a link in the description. Just in case you are wondering about this, by the way, you can mix the different shell types in different colors. You don't have to just have one specific type in your snail. I have 3 different kinds in this tank. I have one tiger Narite, I have one zebra Narite, and then I have another that's just kind of the standard black color. I don't really know if they give that one a name. And last but not least, like most snails, they're very peaceful snails. They are super chill. Never pick a fight. Just make sure that your tank has enough food, materials, and botanicals and all that in there so that they can eat. Getting into the cons of these snails really quickly, there really aren't that many. Number 1, they require brackish water, as I said before, to breed successfully. Now, this isn't probably going to be a con for many people, but if you want to breed them, it could be considered a con because you're going to have to then create a brackish environment. And if you really only have experience with freshwater tanks, it might be a bit of a learning curve, might not be worth it. These snails may also escape the tank if they are given the option. Now, this doesn't just apply to Narites. I have heard from many other people who have different kinds of snails that their snail also tried to escape the tank. I had one instance where this one specific Narite kept trying to leave the tank. I don't really know why. It would escape, I would pick it up, put it back in the tank, it tried to escape again, I picked it up, put it back in the tank. But after about a day, I don't know if it figured out that that wasn't a good option or a good thing to do, but it eventually just stopped. So At this point, none of my snails, except for that one instance, really have tried to escape the tank. You may experience something different with yours. Sometimes snails are different. So if you have a tank without a lid, like I do, the best tip I can give you to kind of help is to keep your water level at least an inch below the rim right up here. That's going to help also with your Betta to keep him from jumping out of the tank, because as I found out not too long ago, if you keep the water level kind of close to the rim, your Betta will jump right over. And he may not even be trying to. Like, a lot of Bettas aren't trying to jump over the edge of the tank. They just go after something and then end up on your desk or your floor. And I know you don't want that. So moving on to the next kind of snail, mystery snails. These seem to be the most popular snail when it comes to freshwater tanks and Betta tanks, at least from what I've noticed. It seems like almost everyone has a mystery snail. And actually, my first snail was a mystery snail. I kept mystery snails for a while when I was little in my tanks, and then I kind of just transitioned to narrate snails. I really like those. But mystery snails tend to get really big, and they are really quite attractive. They have some really unique colorations. There are some gold colored ones. I remember the one that I had was almost blue in appearance. So they're very different. You can get several different kinds, just kind of varied up visually. They also, as with most snails, help to keep the algae clean, and they are very peaceful species. I do believe that they can also coexist pretty well with other snail types like the narite. I think that you should be able to keep a narite and a mystery snail together should you want to, and I don't think there would really be any issue with that. Really, the main con with these that I found to be true for myself was just the fact that they lay these big bundles of pink eggs outside of the water. So, for example, if you have a little space like this in your tank, if you have a mystery snail in there, it's gonna climb up here, lay a big fat bundle of pink eggs, and then just go on with its life. Now, that bundle of eggs is very easy to remove, and I did it a couple of times, but you're going to have to dispose of it unless you want to keep it. Now, if you want to keep it, I have seen a couple people do that successfully. They kept it on a wet paper towel in a sealed container, and they just made sure that that container, I think, had some air to it. I haven't done this myself, but it seems like you can successfully hatch them. However, it can sometimes be a little bit of a hassle if you really don't want to keep taking them down, if you don't want to, maybe you even feel guilty crushing or throwing away the eggs, because if you're not going to hatch them, you're going to have to dispose of them in some way. And I never really felt great about doing that, but I didn't really want a bunch of snails. So if you are okay dealing with that, or if you even want some snail eggs, then by all means get that snail. Mystery snails are still really great. Snail number 3, the Malaysian trumpet snail. I personally have not had any of these snails, but I do think that they're absolutely beautiful, and I know quite a few Betta keepers that have one of these in their tank. The first pro is that they will actually burrow partially into the substrate, which can help aerate it, and it can be beneficial to plants if you have a planted tank. And they are nocturnal, so if for some reason you don't really like the thought of seeing snails a lot in your tank, then perhaps the Malaysian trumpet snail is the snail for you. The cons with the trumpet snail are, number 1, it can breed and reproduce pretty rapidly. 2, they are pretty difficult to control once they get in the tank, so it can be kind of similar to the ram's horn snail, where they're probably just laying eggs everywhere, and then boom, you have more trumpet snails. And 3rd, they may not consume every type of algae as effectively as some other snails will. Moving on, we have the ram's horn snail. Now, I kept these snails in my tank for several years, and I actually liked them. Now, I don't really know what happened, because I did have a few in here. I suspect that maybe they got eaten and they died, or something happened, I don't know. But I don't suppose I have them anymore, because I just don't see them in my tank anymore. But I did used to have them, and let me tell you, they breed rapidly. They will come in on plants, so you don't usually even have to buy any. Like, if you want some, just don't wash off your plants. But if you don't want them in your tank, Little bit of a side note. If you're buying live plants, you need to check over those leaves because they will lay eggs, and it looks like small little patches of jelly, almost like this jelly-like substance, and it's usually on the live plants that you buy. The pro is that because there are so many of them, they can be everywhere at once. They can clean quite well. They're pretty good cleaners, but they also provide a very nice little natural food source for your betta if they happen to be hunters. Every betta I've had in with the ram's horn snails did snack on them, as evidenced by all of these shells that would litter the ground. But I never really worried about it because they had so many little snail babies that I never missed any of them. So it gave my betta a nice little food source, and it was completely free. Although now that I really don't have any in my tanks seem to be doing fine with the nerites, so as of right now, I wouldn't really want any in my tank because I don't really want that huge population boom of the ram's horn snails. And really, moving on to the cons, there are really only the two. Number one, if your betta does eat them, you'll probably have a lot of little loose shells just laying everywhere. And if you have substrate, especially dark substrate, you will see those shells. My problem I kept running into was the fact that they were just a little too heavy for the siphon to suck up. And Lord knows I'm not gonna reach my hand down in there and try to pick up every single little minuscule shell. So if you don't wanna see a lot of little empty shells laying around, you probably don't wanna get ram's horn snails. And number two, they reproduce rapidly. So, I mean, every single day you'll have these little tiny, because they get bigger eventually, but you know, they start out real small, and so it's just little tiny specks everywhere, all over your glass and your plants. Like I said before, it never really bothered me, but visually, I could see how if you have a nice clean tank and you want to keep up that aesthetic, could kind of bother you a little bit. So that's just something you want to keep in mind. And last but not least, we have the assassin snail. Given its name because this snail almost always will prey on other snails in the tank. The pros with this snail are that number one, they will wipe out ram's horn snails. So if you happen to get a big population of ram's horn snails, a lot of people will buy a assassin snail to come and wipe out those snails. So that can deal with the issue if by chance you have it and you kind of need to manage that. An assassin snail could be a good idea. They are quite attractive. Their shells are really pretty. They usually have a striped pattern, so that can be very visually appealing. And they also generally do not reproduce rapidly, which is good because it would kind of be ironic if you brought in the assassin snail to help deal with your massive snail population of ram's horns, but then you end up with a massive population of assassin snails. Seems a little bit ironic. And then we have the cons, which is these snails will not control algae. They will not help with algae cleanup because they're carnivores, so they prey on other snails. So if you don't really have snails that they can eat it on, they could starve, and they also just won't help with cleanup. They may also prey on desirable snail species. So let's say you have some nerites in your tank and you have an assassin snail, it could very well end up killing the snails that you actually liked and wanted to keep. So unless you just want that assassin snail as the snail in your tank, or if you're buying it to wipe out a less desirable population of snail, those are the only two times when you would probably want to bring one of these into your tank. You would never want to mix it with, say, mystery snails or nerite snails, because it's highly possible that it would also kill them. And the last con is that if the prey has been dealt with, so let's say you brought in an assassin snail and now it's wiped out all the ram's horns, yay, fantastic, but now that snail has nothing to eat. So at this point, you'll probably need to put something in there for it to feed on. And it seems to me like it would probably be more snails. I don't really know. I've never had one before, but it would seem that since they're carnivores and they don't eat algae, you would need to put some other food source in there, which might be other snails. So I believe for this reason, they are not one of the more popular snails. I think that the mystery snail and the nerite snail just kind of take the trophy for the most popular ones. I know that some people do like the trumpet snail, but I'm always hearing about the mystery snail first and then usually the nerite snail second. I love all of these snails are really cool and really interesting options. Let me know what you think. If you've ever had experience with these snails, please let me know in the comments. It would also be an extra and fun way for people to continue learning outside of this video. Like I said, I've only ever kept mystery or nerite snails, so let me know what you think if you have other types of snails. Let me know what you think about them. And also let me know which snail is your current favorite. Mine, the nerite, but you probably already knew that from the beginning of this video. And if you didn't, now you do. So with that, friend, you get back to the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining me. If you are in search of more fun and informative content, you better hit that subscribe button, because that is what I'm putting out every single week on this channel. All things betta fish, betta tank related, tank mates related, anything that has to do with a betta and betta care in a betta tank, we are talking all about it. And I'm pretty sure you don't want to miss out. Before you go, I have a couple fun links in the description. I have a link to my free Facebook group, the Betta Fish Forum. You definitely want to be a part of that if you're not. I also have a link to a free guide that I am currently offering. It will be downloadable, so you can click the link to that as well. And last but not least, I have a link to my socials. So if you like Instagram and you love fun, fishy content, then I think you're really gonna like my page. With that said, friend, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or night, no matter when you were watching this. God bless you, and I will see you soon.